US President Donald Trump issues stark warning to Hamas, says further violation of the fragile ceasefire in Gaza would trigger a response that would be fast, furious and brutal. US Vice President J.D. Vance and his wife Usha Vance have arrived in Israel. Vice President Vance is scheduled to hold talks with Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu on the second phase of the Gaza ceasefire. Hamas's armed wing has confirmed that it would return the bodies of two more hostages on Tuesday. On the other hand, the Red Cross has facilitated the transfer of 15 Palestinian bodies from Israel to Gaza. According to reports, a Russian drone attack killed 4 people in Ukraine's northern Chernihiv region. Meanwhile, 4 others were wounded in the town of Novorossiysk, including a 10-year-old child. Japan's newly elected Prime Minister, Sanae Takaichi, says that the final responsibility of economic policy falls upon the government in a first press conference as the Prime Minister of Japan. The 151st Inter-Parliamentary Union is underway in Geneva, where legislators from a total of 183 member parliaments are convening to deliberate upon pressing matters like food security and migration. US President Donald Trump warned China that it could face tariffs as high as 155% unless Chinese President Xi Jinping agrees to a fair trade deal with Washington from his perspective. US President Donald Trump and Australian Prime Minister Anthony Albanese have signed an $8.5 billion rare earth minerals deal and confirmed plans for nuclear-powered submarines under the AUKUS Pact. All right, the 151st Inter-Parliamentary Union is underway in Geneva. All IPU statutory bodies, including the Governing Council, standing committees, committees on the human rights of parliamentarians and on Middle East questions, as well as the Forum of Women Parliamentarians and the Forum of Young MPs are meeting on this occasion. My colleague Pia Mann has had the opportunity to speak with some parliamentarians gathered in Geneva. Have a look.
Welcome, I am Pia and you're watching NewsX World. We're at the 151st session of the Inter-Parliamentary Union in Geneva. Joining me right now is Mr. Serkan Kose. He's a member of parliament from Sweden. Thank you so much for taking our time and talking to us on NewsX World. At the outset, I wanted to understand from you how significant is the Inter-Parliamentary Union as a platform, because we see MPs from more than 183 countries come to one position, deliberate upon crucial issues plaguing the world.
Thank you very much. Yeah, it's as you mentioned, parliaments from all the world are now in Geneva to talk about the common issues. I think it's very important that this kind of organization, this kind of meeting will continue. We have to make that our parliament very, very strong. We have to continue work for the human rights issues. We have to continue to talk about the equality, the gender equality, the climate change, the technology framework. So it's a huge challenges and questions we have around the world, that this is opportunity for all of us from all the world to be in Geneva and meeting like that, to have, take or give knowledge from our each country. So I'm very glad, very happy that we are here now. So IPU is a platform for democracy around the world.
Absolutely, and you've mentioned human rights. I also wanted to tell our viewers that the theme this edition is upholding humanitarian norms and supporting humanitarian action in times of crisis. I wanted to understand from you how crucial are these conversations around this very issue, considering the fact that there are more than 120 conflicts across the world.
Yeah, as you mentioned, unfortunately, we have a lot of conflicts. We have starving, we have climate change, we have interior wars around the world. So IPU, once again, is a huge opportunity for us to meet, to listen, to learn, and also to share. So from this perspective, I think it's very important that we have this kind of platforms that we can meet each other, we can listen to each other, and learn from others. So that's important for us.
Absolutely. You also mentioned climate change. I wanted to understand, what is Sweden in particular doing? What can other countries learn from Sweden in that way? And what do you hope you can learn from other countries in tackling climate change?
Absolutely, we have to learn more from other countries can be inspired from the Sweden, but Sweden the last 10, 15, 20 minutes, we have what we call it green energy, green technology. We are investing a lot of money from our budget to change our society, to go from to more, from fossil-free society. We are creating our municipals, we are building cities. The environmental thing is, above everything. And we started with from municipals, from children's, from the companies. So everybody in Sweden are thinking climate, thinking investigation, thinking the changing. But from our perspective, it's very important that we gone from the now we're using the oil, gas, to the more technological, more like a battery. We are making a batteries in Sweden. That we go to electricity is very, very important. So we are changing now the society of Sweden. We are investing a lot of. We have to do more because what you see around the world, every country has a responsibility to help each other to change this one. I want to leave something to my children and grandchildren, good world.
Absolutely. And last but not the least, speaking about the future, we are living in a digital age. AI is permeating our lives every single day, and its use is bound to increase as well, considering its access has been democratized. What, in your perspective, are some of the challenges that you face, especially when it comes to policy making and artificial intelligence?
The important thing is that we have to control. The parliaments have to have control over the technological development. It's important that we have technological development, but the question is how we use it and how we control it. So from my perspective, it's very important that as a legislative power, it's important that the parliament have the power over the technology, that we can control it. So we have to do more legislation, more control, but it's needed. Technology is good, is needed, but we also have to share technology around the world. Not every country have the possibility to create their own or to make own technology. We have to share. The countries who is good in technology have to share.
Indeed, using technology for global good. Thank you so much, Mr. Serkan Köse, for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World. Hello and welcome, I'm Pia and you're watching NewsX World. We're at the 151st Inter-Parliamentary Union in Geneva. I'm being joined by Ceylin Akçakupolu. She's a Member of Parliament from Turkey. Thank you so much for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX. At the outset, there are members of Parliament from over 183 countries gathered over here, deliberating on the world's most pressing issue. How significant then do you think is such a platform on empowering parliamentarians across the world and representation of people and their problems and concerns?
I think it's very difficult for us politicians to find a common ground, to see each other, to talk to each other, to have the space to have joint discussions on pressing issues, for instance, on sustainable development, or its humanitarian law in times of crisis, or just how we respond to conflicts, or defense, how we allocate our budgets for defense. And there's not much space to discuss that on a global platform. And IPU, fortunately, allows us to come together and connect with countries that we would never, ever be in touch with. For instance, last night I got the chance to meet with parliamentarians from Bhutan, and I got to learn that they are also dealing with the brain drain issue. Their youth is leaving. They are trying to keep the youth in the country, but they're trying to find solutions. So we got a chance to sit down and talk about local solutions to problems of such.
Absolutely. And this year's theme is upholding humanitarian norms and supporting humanitarian action in times of crisis. There are over 120 global conflicts at the moment. How do you see this platform then and the deliberating space as it provides, as you've mentioned, in sort of helping to solve these conflicts?
Well, here I'd like to drop a little note. I'm a Kurdish person. Even though I'm from Turkey, I'm not Turkish, I'm Kurdish. And my people are facing conflicts in 4 countries, Iran, Iraq, Syria, and Turkey. And there's currently peace talks that could result in a peaceful resolution to the Kurdish question in a regional perspective. And while we discuss peaceful resolutions to conflicts, we also have to understand how humanitarian law works, and that became more evident with the war in Gaza, with civilian deaths and let's call it genocidal attacks on people, and the starvation of children and a whole punishment of a whole population. That showed us that we need to uphold humanitarian law no matter how and when. The problem is that more countries are withdrawing from protocols that show basic rules one must apply during conflict, and they withdraw from these during conflict. And the war between Ukraine and Russia is also forcing many European countries to withdraw from these protocols that have the basic standards to ensure civilian safety. So this is also a great platform to make sure that they feel the pressure from international partners, international colleagues who say that don't withdraw, stay in these protocols and the laws, the legal amendments, because they are important for the well-being of the humanity.
Absolutely. Some other crucial issues that are being addressed over here, as Ms. Coppola mentioned, is climate change. Now, how is Turkey going about incorporating sustainable development? What do you think Turkey can teach the world, and what do you think Turkey can learn from the world as well?
Unfortunately, my country is not doing enough to tackle climate change, but also my country is positioned in a region that is suffering from water scarcity, and it's going to have extreme droughts in the coming years. And it's also the position of my country impacts the water scarcity in Iraq, Syria, and Iran as well. So that becomes a regional issue. So if Turkey doesn't handle its climate change policies, then it's going to impact other countries in the region. And that's why we're trying to, at least with my party, the party that I represent, we're trying to have a holistic approach to climate change. And we propose that each party, each political party, political camp makes sure that their party program includes concrete steps for climate change. But at the moment, unfortunately, we have really horrendous mining laws in our country, and we hope that the experience of IPU, what we learn from IPU here, could help us back in the country to propose laws that respect climate.
And speaking of the future, we also know that technology is a part of everyone's lives, AI included. We're seeing young kids now being exposed to artificial intelligence at their tender age as well. It does have its advantages, its boon, with the fact that you have information accessible very easily, but there are drawbacks as well, challenges as well. Deepfakes are a major concern. How do you think then can parliamentarians over here legislate going forward in their countries to draft proper AI policies?
Well, the recent advancements on AI sort of remind me of the great frontier in the, let's say, the discovery of the American continent. And there, while they were discovering the continent, they also had, they found these mines full of gold, and they had this thing called rush to gold. And that was done so uncontrollably, and that it resulted in some permanent damage. With the eradication of native people and like irreversible damages to that area, culture, language, and everything. And I think AI is sort of similar. We're just rushing into it. Everybody's trying to be part of it as soon as possible, but when it's done without proper safeguards and without proper framework, it could result in catastrophic results, consequences. Because yesterday we were discussing nuclear armament. Everyone is trying to gather nuclear capacities, but that at the same time we have AI, and AI without control in charge of nuclear weapons means that there's an alien invasion onto humanity and an alien intervention on humanity. So that these parliaments need to make legal jurisdiction and mechanisms to tackle issues regarding AI.
And one last question. The IPU was founded in 1889, and since then it's been a very robust organization helping all parliamentarians come together and sort of chalk out solutions to different problems they're facing in different contexts across the world. What is your hope for the IPU for the future? We do know there are 183 out of 193 countries already involved.
Well, I understand that bringing so many different colors together and expecting them to be in consensus is a drastic expectation. So I'm not of that expectation. But I do hope that IPU could find a way to make more concrete steps. Yes, we gather, we talk, we pass resolutions, but we also need to discuss how to make more concrete steps.
All right, ma'am. With that, I would like to thank you for taking our time and speaking to us on NewsX World.
All right, US President Donald Trump in social media platforms said that several Middle Eastern allies have offered to send troops into Gaza to deal with Hamas if necessary. However, Trump also said he told them not yet, believing there is still hope for a peaceful resolution. He warned Hamas that if they fail to comply with the agreement, their end will be fast, furious and brutal. This comes as violence in Gaza continues, with at least 7 Palestinians killed in the last 24 hours. Trump's comments follow a fragile truce and a renewed focus on the future of peace in the region. All right, John Rosamondo, president of the Viking Research Associates, is joining us from Washington, D.C. at this point in time. Yeah. Hi, appreciate you joining us, John. I hope you can hear me. All right, John, I can't hear you. If you can unmute yourself, that'll be great. All right, there seems to be a problem with your connection, John. We will come back to you momentarily, but of course, a very thin line at this point in time between the truce that was reached between Israel and Hamas. It seems that through the reports that are coming in, that Hamas is not living up to its end of the bargain, and that is going to be a death knell for Hamas. Donald Trump has warned them that there will be troops on the ground that will demilitarize Hamas, and that will be the end of Hamas. In fact, even in popular videos on social media, right after the Israelis left, the IDF left, Hamas mercenaries could be seen killing their own people in Gaza. All right, Vice President J.D. Vance, in fact, and a special envoy, Witkoff and Jared Kushner are addressing a press conference in Tel Aviv. Listen in.
This is a very, very tough situation. You have two peoples, two enemies who have fought a very tough conflict against each other. You have a terrorist organization on one hand that murdered a lot of innocent people. You've got an Israeli army that was defending itself on the other, that has learned a lot over the past couple of years. And of course, you have an innocent civilian population in Gaza that's caught in the middle. But we're here at the Civilian Military Cooperation Center, which we are announcing the opening of. You have Israelis and Americans working hand in hand to try to begin the plan to rebuild Gaza, to implement a long-term peace, and to actually ensure that you have security forces on the ground in Gaza, not composed of Americans, who can keep the peace over the long term. So we've got a lot of work left to do. This is going to take a very, very long time, but I think Steve Witkoff, Jared Kushner, and Admiral Cooper behind me have done an incredible job. I want to say just a couple of quick things, and then I want to turn it over to Steve Witkoff. Number one, the Israeli government has been remarkably helpful in this. I want to thank them, thank our Israeli partners, and all the folks particularly who are working hand in hand with their American friends here at the CMCC. And number two, I want to say that there is this weird attitude I've sensed in the American media and the Western media where there's almost this desire to root for failure, that every time something bad happens, that every time that there's an act of violence, there's this inclination to say, oh, this is the end of the ceasefire, this is the end of the peace plan. It's not the end. It is in fact exactly how this is going to happen when you have people who hate each other, who have been fighting against each other for a very long time. We are doing very well. We are in a very good place. We're going to have to keep working on it, but I think we have the team to do exactly that. So with all thanks to our partners, both in Israel, but all across the Gulf Arab states, Indonesia, the Turks, we are doing an amazing thing here, and I'm particularly proud of the American troops working at the command center who are coordinating this effort and making it possible. So with that, I want to thank Ambassador Steve Witkoff and turn it over to him to say a few things, and after everybody's said a few words, we'll take some questions. Thank you, guys.
The IPU Secretary
Very much, Mr. Vice
any
President.
such document
We're
immediately
really
to-
proud.
All right, at least 4 people were killed in a Russian drone attack in Ukraine's northern Chernihiv region, including a 10-year-old child. Meanwhile, Russia has rejected the idea of a frontline freeze in Ukraine, with Kremlin spokesperson Dmitry Peskov stating that Moscow's position remains unchanged. On the sideline, the European leaders have criticized Russia's stalling tactics in peace talks, and US President Donald Trump is pushing for direct talks with President Putin, planning a summit in Budapest. He also said that Ukraine and Russia should stop at the battle lines and end fighting. However, the date for a preparatory meeting between US Secretary of State Marco Rubio and Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov is still unclear. In a recent meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky, Trump pushed for Ukraine to consider a ceasefire on current battle lines. The Kremlin continues to insist on the complete withdrawal of Ukrainian troops from the east. Martin Saarez, foreign affairs expert, is joining us at this point in time. Martin, appreciate you being here with us. Well, it's very important that Zelensky is also made part of these negotiations. Donald Trump and Putin have met a number of times in the past. I remember that meeting that they had in Alaska, and of course the subsequent meeting in which Zelensky showed up in a suit. I think the important part is that all the 3 leaders have to get together to figure out lasting peace between Russia and Ukraine.
Absolutely. I think these type of meetings are breaking the ice between these 2 opposite leaders. I think right now the mediation that Trump is doing is going to be essential to getting to terms. He needs to analyze what is the main goal from Russia and Ukraine, to balance both interests and to try once and for all to end this war. We see that Russia is interested in territorial goals. We see that Ukraine is scared about its sovereignty and losing also its territorial resources and its sovereignty, and they are afraid of the Russian intervention inside its political spectrum. So I think this needs to be taken in consideration.
Martin, appreciate you joining us. Thank you so much. Well, that's all we have time for. Keep watching NewsX World for more news updates from around the world. Thank you.